got a friend in me. Fringe got a friend in me. I love it so much, it's never cringe. It hits so hot, it's hotter than the floor that singed. I love it so much, the Orlando Fringe. Yeah, you got a friend in me. Friend got a friend in me. Oh, Fringe got a friend in me. The people who run this thing work thankless. And this is true, this fact, you can bank this. You don't know what you're talking about, Governor DeSantis. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You got it. Some of the folks might be a little bit smarter than I am, bigger, stronger too. No one ever loved you the way I do. Notice, yeah, after many years you gone by, friends will never die. You're gonna see we will get our funds in, yeah. I said you gotta pay. And welcome to this wonderful press conference here for Fringe. My name is Chase Padgett. I was your pre-show entertainment. I'll be speaking in a little bit, but right now I think we should get it moving along. Thank you so much.
Community.
Like a lot of people, it is something that I just look forward to every single year. I plan my year around the Fringe. Vacations come second, everything comes second to Fringe.
If you want to see me in May, you better show up to Fringe because that's where I'm going to be.
It's just a lot of fun. It's blast, you know. I love it. I just love it.
Just looking at me, you can tell that I'm a square peg in a round hole of the world.
When you have people of different backgrounds and different cultures and willing and ready to, you know, share and also support others of those varying backgrounds, you almost come into like a sense of belonging.
The energy that Fringe brings truly will set your soul in such a great place for the rest of the year.
Fringe afforded me opportunities that I probably not would have been able to have accomplished on my own.
It's certainly the most sought after festival in the United States, and it's one of the most sought after festivals in the world.
I think that Orlando Fringe is a great place for young producers to build confidence.
Being able to take my shows places I never thought they would go.
Orlando Fringe has inspired me not just to become a better performer, but just a better creative person overall.
There's the courage to put something out into the world and hope for the best.
It kind of gave me a new lease on life. I think the Orlando Fringe really opened my eyes to what could be out there.
There's so much that gives back that I get so artistically rewarded by every Fringe.
Yeah, honestly, it was the Fringe Festival that made me first start writing at all.
Fringe gave me some of my biggest, earliest, most important opportunities to practice my art.
It's an amazing chance to commune with people, local Orlando types, your neighbors, your friends.
It's such a great cross-section of the culture, not only in our area, but both international and national artists.
Meeting people from all over.
Just the family atmosphere of Fringe.
It's really exciting to see. This is all ages. Families can be involved.
You would be hard-pressed to find a single person that could go to the Fringe and really make an effort to find something that they enjoy and not have a good time.
I have seen shows at Fringe that have made me laugh, that have made me cry, that have made me think.
When you go to a show and it changes the way you see the world, that's magic.
I've never walked out of a show without any takeaways.
The Fringe is literally on the edges, in fact, but it actually transcends everybody. I always go back to rated G to OMG to bring everyone together and mix them all up. Being in a place like that really changes you as an audience.
There's something about Fringe when that spark is just like right there. I think that's one of the most exciting things to Fringe, is watching what my fellow performers are doing and our reactions to each other based on the art that we see. It's a web. It's a connection.
It gives us permission to try things in a safe space.
And you just have all these ambitions that kind of just fall off of you.
Had I not started doing Fringe, I don't know if I ever would have written a show, to be honest. And now that's kind of falling.
It really does something for your mind, body, and spirit. And you don't really get that in a lot of places with a lot of things.
I think your average patron is unaware of how much they just helped someone's dream come into a reality.
Gosh, it makes me cry. It's made me realize my dreams. And so I'm a cheerleader for the Orlando Fringe.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate everyone joining us both here in Orlando and online in Tampa and beyond. My name is Scott Galbraith. I am happy to serve as the Interim Executive Director of Orlando Fringe.
And I'm Trish Perry. I am the festival producer of the Tampa Fringe, home of the show Captain Havoc that the governor's communications director called out on Twitter. First, we'd like to thank our performer, Chase Padgett, as well as Fringezilla and Frankie the Fringe Chicken.
While we're thanking folks, we also want to thank Orlando Family Stage, Florida's premier producer of professional theater for children and families. Please a round of applause for that. Orlando Family Stage is one of Orlando Fringe's most cherished venue partners, and we are particularly grateful for their partnership ongoingly, but specifically today for hosting this. Special thanks to Chris Brown, Jeff Rebels, and the entire team. We are deeply grateful to be here today. Thank you.
Besides talking about the issues at hand, we are here to celebrate World Fringe Day today. There are over 300 Fringe festivals all over the world, from Hawaii to Australia to New Zealand to right here in Florida, where we have 4 different Fringe festivals. Today we're going to celebrate artists, technicians, our venues, our sponsors, our producers, basically everybody, our audiences, everybody that has anything to do with making Fringe happen, really.
And the theme of this year's World Fringe Day is freedom of language, because artistic expression transcends language barriers. The World Fringe family uses dialogue and connection to celebrate diversity in all of its forms. And during World Fringe Day, our words, as part of a global community of Fringe festivals, are to be used as bridges and not barriers. Our hope is that by our words today, folks will help build bridges and break down barriers. To that point, should folks feel inclined to post about today, please feel free to use the hashtag #FreedomToFringe.
In addition to being a part of the World Fringe family, the Tampa Fringe and the Orlando Fringe are both members of the Canadian Association of Fringe Festivals. We are 2 of the 7 different U.S. members of that organization. We are members for a variety of reasons, but mostly it is so that we all come together with some very cohesive tenets of how we create this thing called Fringe here in America.
And those values, if you will, are first, we are unjuried, which is to say we are not gatekeepers, and audiences are free to curate the experiences of their own preference. And it also means that we are uncensored. We respect both artists and audiences' voices and give them the space to enjoy it.
We also promote accessibility. This is in terms of both affordability and as far as accommodations go for people of all different sorts of different abilities. We also are very, very much about inclusivity, which would mean, I think both of our festivals have different lotteries to make sure that all peoples are represented in our festivals. And we really just try to make everyone feel included and able to fringe, whether it be as an artist or as an audience member or anything in between.
Exactly. And part of that is making sure that it's an affordable festival and that it has representation to the degree that we have control of that, because again, it is lottery based. But with all that, what we would like to do now is turn the podium over to some other folks to speak about their experiences with Fringe, and we'll come back in just a little bit. But let's go ahead and start by bringing up Tempest Halstead, who is the festival producer for World Fringe.
Thank you so much, Trish. My name is Tempest Halstead, and as the festival producer for Orlando Fringe, it is my honor and privilege to speak on behalf of the Orlando Fringe Festival. My connection with Orlando Fringe began in 2009, as an artist and a performer, where I experienced firsthand the depth of connections festivals like these provide for artists and communities locally and abroad. In 2018, I joined the Fringe staff, working my way up from intern to arts administrator, associate producer, and now festival producer.
Good morning, I'm William Glenn, and I am the festival director of the Tampa Fringe. And my journey to this moment in time began in 2011 when Trish, who was just up here, and I, we took a show to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival as artists. We did a little touring show called Brief History of Beer, and that experience of being able to come up with an idea, put it together, and take it and put it on stages all around the world was something that at that time was brand new to me. So no other venue would have been accessible in that way to people without any money, without any who didn't know any large producers or connections to artistic directors. We were able to get our work seen by thousands of people all over the world, and that was all just because of Fringe.
For over 3 decades, Orlando Fringe has been more than just a theater festival. It is a community that celebrates the boundless human spirit. It is the longest running and largest Fringe festival in the United States. It is infusing Central Florida with vibrant arts, energy, inspiration, and culture. A remarkable achievement we should all celebrate and be proud of.
And Tampa Fringe is the scrappy kid on the block. We started 8 years ago. This was our 8th festival. We just closed our 8th festival. And I think until very recently, we were the smallest festival in Tampa, if not in the United States. We have taken the approach of growing slowly with our community and receiving mentorship from Orlando Fringe and from all the good folks that we work here as staff and also as volunteers and artists. So Tampa, we feel very strongly that we're the little sister festival to Orlando, and we're really proud to be in that position.
Orlando Fringe is a sanctuary for artistic expression and innovation. It offers a creative opportunity for artists of all levels, allowing them to experiment, push boundaries, and share their unique voices. The festival's non-juried mission ensures that anyone with a story to tell can find a stage, creating a dynamic tapestry of ideas and perspectives.
And one of the things that my festival producer, Trish, and I were talking about that I think is such an interesting thought is that in this field, the arts is a field that tends to skew towards the left. It's a field that tends to skew towards the moneyed and the educated, and there's nothing wrong with those things. Of course, education is wonderful, and we all have our own politics, but the Fringe is the one space that I know of where anyone from any walk of life with any political affiliation or religious ideology or just anything that they want to say would be welcome to come on to any of our stages. And actually, even if some of us didn't like what they had to say, that would be too bad because Fringe doesn't gatekeep.
A standout feature of Orlando Fringe is the ability to cultivate a platform to financially support artists. This year alone, in just 2 weeks, the festival enabled artists to collectively earn about $500,000, providing significant economic benefits and further fostering their creative endeavors. This financial support has empowered artists to continue their creative legacies, leading them to create major theme park experiences, bring works premiered here to national and international stages, produce on and off Broadway shows, succeed in film, and even perform at the Grand Ole Opry.
And we're really proud of the fact that in the short time that we've been doing our festival and with the comparatively small number of artists that we've had come through our stages, nevertheless, we've had several artists that have had their first Fringe experience at Tampa and then gone on to tour the Canadian Association of Fringe Festivals or gone overseas to places like Adelaide or Edinburgh, and that's super exciting to us. And besides that kind of introduction to the world, maybe that we get to be for some that we get lucky enough to be for some people, we also make a significant economic impact in our area. The audience members that come to our festival eat at the restaurants and drink at the bars and go and patronize other establishments within the area. And we employ technicians and we employ festivals just like you guys do, but maybe on a smaller scale. But we employ and we pay fairly. We pay everyone that comes into our festival. It's very important to us that this is a way for people to get work.
In a world that often feels divided, the festival is a powerful reminder of our shared humanity. The connections made here through story and song, laughter and tears, recognizing pieces of ourselves reflected in the eyes of another's experience and expression are profound and lasting.
And as a Fringe artist who has toured, I mean, we both toured around and done our own work, but as an artist who, a festival administrator who got my start as an artist, my first experience of Fringe was the beer tent. It was the melting pot of other artists and other audience members and other administrators, and getting a chance to talk to them and find out a little bit more about their world and how that could grow my world and how that could inform my artistic practice. And touring around and seeing that elsewhere, it was my fondest dream to bring that back to Tampa. And I feel like maybe the greatest disservice I got from my arts education was that I got a bachelor's degree right down the road, and somehow I had never heard of Orlando Fringe until I was a Fringe artist. We got to spread the word about Fringe.
Our festival promotes a culture of artistic sustainability and renewal by seeking engagement with future generations. Through workshops and hands-on experiences, it provides invaluable educational opportunities, inspiring young artists and fostering mentorship. It's a place where dreams take root and grow.
And I also think it's a place where, just going back to that idea of everyone having a seat at the table, to me, one of the really exciting things about Fringe is that we have high art. We have Shakespeare and we have Tennessee Williams and no theater, but we also have goofy stuff, and we have stuff for the kids, and we have stuff that's maybe a little spicy. But we have everything. The Fringe is the place where I take people who I think probably wouldn't be big fans of the theater if I want to get them into the arts. Fringe is where I introduce people to the arts, and they can springboard off that to other things.
Importantly, the festival is committed to inclusivity by offering affordable ticket prices and free outdoor events. It ensures that everyone, regardless of their economic status, can participate and enjoy the arts. This inclusivity speaks volumes about the festival's dedication to our communities.
And I think our community we're one family. Not just Tampa Fringe and Orlando Fringe, but Winnipeg and Edinburgh and Adelaide and Asheville and all the other festivals that there's not time to mention. And our community is the world. our community are all the people who stand to benefit from the existence of these festivals.
The Orlando Fringe and the Tampa Fringe Festivals are not just events. It is a movement of hope and creativity and community spirit. It enriches our lives, it strengthens our bonds, and supports our mental well-being. It stands as a testament to what we can achieve when we come together and not only celebrate the art, but support the arts.
I don't think that could have been said any better.
Next up, we are going to hear from artists. We're going to hear from producers. We are going to hear from people and folks who participate in the festivals. So first up, we have Chase Patrick.
Thank you for having me here today. The arts are essential to a national life. The state owes it to itself to support and encourage them. Those are not my words. Those are the words of Winston Churchill, a man who might know a thing or two about leadership in his time. Now, my name is Chase Paget, and my first one-man show, Six Guitars, premiered at the Orlando Fringe Festival in 2010. And it quickly changed the course of my entire career. It was a surprise to me that it went so well that people were scalping tickets for the final show. It led me to actually self-produce it that summer, and since then, I've gotten to tour Six Guitars all across Canada and the US well over 700 times. And that was just my first solo show. Since then, I have hired other creative professionals along the way, whether they be videographers or media professionals, web designers, people who are really taking their craft seriously and making a real legitimate career out of it, much like I have. So when people ask, well, what good is the Fringe? What fruits do those festivals bear? I'll tell you right now, the Orlando Fringe does not bear fruit directly. It instead provides a fertile soil for artists to bear their own fruit. And the fruit in my life has been transformative. Fruits like creativity and connection, but also small business management. You would think a governor who builds himself as a friend of small business would understand that this is more than an arts festival for patrons. It is a startup accelerator for artists like myself. And when you do not fund an organization like the Orlando Fringe, you ensure that the seeds of tomorrow's creators never sprout. I'm fired up, y'all. I'm fired up. So, I understand that Governor DeSantis called the Orlando Fringe a sexual festival, which frankly says more about his mindset than the festival. But I will say this, my show, Six Guitars, was born in the Orlando Fringe. It has become, much to my blessing, one of its greatest ambassadors over the years, touring all over. And it's going to be happening at the Dr. Phillips Center this January. So, Governor DeSantis, this show is not sexual at all. So I challenge you, come see Six Guitars, and I'll make you a promise. If you get aroused at any moment, I will give you your money back and ensure that you get the medical help you so clearly deserve. Thank you.
Next up, we have Jessica Jacobs.
Hello, my name is Jessica, and I'm an artist who recently won Best of Fest at Tampa Fringe with my dramatic think piece called The Toy Box. It was a show I wrote when I was 18, struggling with the idea of growing up. I like calling it Evil Toy Story because the gist of the show was my character's teddy bear coming to life and attempting to trap his owner in the toy box with him. It was a truly weird, dramatic look at obsession, toxic affection, and the fear of aging. It was a show that was rotting on my hard drive until my mother begged me to be able to direct it. So this year it became like a family project. My mother and I working on the show together as we both dealt with different aspects of growing up. Me approaching my late 20s and her having to deal with a daughter who was approaching her late 20s. It's a show that I would not have been able to or comfortable producing producing anywhere else besides Fringe. Tampa Fringe and Fringe Festivals in general are havens for artists. It's a place to create, to embody and meet fellow-minded people. It's an uncensored, beautiful expression of the human spirit and all its wonderful, kooky complexities. And when I say uncensored, that doesn't mean raunchy or necessarily dirty, although there's something wonderfully human about those type of shows, but I mean uncensored, that we get to fully experience what it means to be alive, to be an artist in a difficult world, and to not shy away from deep emotions or deep topics that might not be deemed commercially viable. By attending a Fringe show, you get a raw glimpse of the human creative spirit. And that's what makes Fringe shows truly important. Thank you.
Next up, Tamisha Harris.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tamisha Harris, and I'm going to be short and sweet. Surprise. So yes, my name is Tamisha Harris, and I am an Orlando-based, internationally successful performing artist. And in my work, I need to be extremely connected individual, both to myself and to the community. In 2007, I was introduced to the Orlando Fringe, and I was, just like everybody else, forever changed. The Fringe Festival taught me I could be an individual as well as a company member and still shine. The Fringe has shown me that you can create wonder and amazement without a lot of money or big sets or special effects, similarly to what 600 programs are going to have to do now that they've lost funding. The Fringe showed me the world and still does to this day. It gives me a platform to co-create, develop, and tour a worldwide phenomenon called Josephine. Josephine is about the legendary Josephine Baker. And if you don't know who she is, she's the only American-born woman and the only Black woman to be immortalized in the Pantheon in France for her humanitarian efforts and for her role as a spy with the French resistance in World War II. You don't know who she is, you need to look her up. What started out in 2016 at the San Diego Fringe Festival with about 16 people in the audience has now had a run off Broadway, has won multiple awards across 3 continents, and recently a sold-out run completed at the Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts right here in the city, beautiful Orlando. But honestly, Josephine is my creative way of realizing, not repeating the past, but inspiring the future. It has allowed me to make a living as a performer, and it has taken me around the world, as I said. Her story that I get to tell is a history lesson, is a cabaret, and it is also a heartfelt eye-opening experience that leaves you inspired to do better, to communicate better with the people around you. It is also given the platform to succeed, right? Throughout the Fringe Festivals around the world. Please make sure that the opportunities given to us that are for this generation and for the next and the next and the next. Support the Fringe Festivals however you can, whether you know what it's going to be or not. It's very important that you just take a chance. I love our community, and I find that if we have to fund ourselves, then let's get it. Learn, honey, bring all the people you can, because like I said, we are a community. So please get your heads in the game, get your hearts in the game. Vote for the people, not for yourselves. Realize the future is coming, and if you don't, you will get left behind. Thank you very much, and peace and arts.
Thank you so much, Tanisha. Next up, Michael Marinaccio.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Marinaccio. I am currently a member of the board of directors of Orlando Fringe, and I previously served as the festival producer of the Orlando International Fringe Theater Festival from 2011 to 2019. I took part in my first Fringe Festival in 1997, and it absolutely changed my life. It was a festival of a few dozen shows, largely sketch comedy, improv, and cabaret. And it was done mostly in makeshift venues in downtown Orlando with empty storefronts. My friends and I paid $200 to do a show at the Orlando Fringe. And we charged $5 a ticket for our original one-act comedy. We built our own sets and designed our own costumes, lights, and sound. We printed up flyers and learned to pitch our show to strangers. We met other brave artists who were producing their own work and saw some of the coolest and most innovative performing arts that we had ever seen. We even sold out a few performances of The Zombie Doorman, and at the end of it, I was hooked. Fringe gave me a place where we could create the theater we wanted to make affordably and supported by a community of volunteers, artists, nonprofit staff, and audiences. It was an amazing community, and I had just become part of it. I have since spent my life as a participant, an administrator, an audience member, a volunteer, a producer, an actor, and/or a cheerleader for the Orlando Fringe and Fringe Festivals across the world. Over the course of my career, the Fringe has helped me launch over 20 original projects, including the off-Broadway and international hit show Josephine with my partner and co-creator Tamisha Harris. Today, the Orlando Fringe is the oldest and largest festival of its kind in the United States. It serves thousands of artists and tens of thousands of attendees every year. Fees and tickets have gone up a little bit since 1997, but it is still the most affordable way for artists to produce shows in our community. And the tickets are a maximum $15 for the audience, so it's still the most affordable way for audiences and people to see live performing arts. For the price of a concert or a sporting event, you can still see a weekend of shows at the Fringe. But even for me, the Fringe Festival is a difficult thing to define. Each one is different, and every show is new, and every experience is unique, so I can understand and forgive the governor's ignorance in trying to describe it. And while I'm not sure what Like a Sexual Festival, where that came from, I will concede that it is a place where we are doing all this stuff. So let me try to put this into the plainest terms that I can. Fringe festivals are largely a reflection of their communities, the communities they serve and support. They are places where the fundamental values of fairness, freedom of speech, and freedom of expression are honored and protected. They are every genre of performing arts and live entertainment you can imagine, and a few you probably couldn't. Fringe Fest brings shows from around the world and have a huge economic and cultural impact on the cities that host them. And they teach artists to be independent business people and marketers and give them a safe platform to create new work. In Scotland, where the Fringes began, the Edinburgh Fringe is the single largest performing arts festival in the world, with an economic impact estimated by some to be nearly $1 billion over just 1 month. Over its 77 years, that festival has been the birthplace of countless successful shows and careers, like the recent streaming hits Baby Reindeer and Fleabag. Orlando and Tampa Fringes are not quite there yet, but they have been the launch pad for hundreds of shows and artists like Tamisha, Chase, and myself. So to everyone watching this, please, please, please support and come be a part of your local Fringe Festival. Everyone is welcome here. And to the press, thank you all for giving us this platform to share who we are and what we do with the public. Hopefully now, after this press conference, there will be no more impediments or excuses for funding the vital arts sector in the state of Florida. Thank you very much.
In just a moment, we're going to bring up a couple of other community advocates to speak about different aspects of Fringe from a community perspective. and an advocacy perspective. At the moment, we do want to read a little bit of a letter, the letter that we wrote to the governor today. Tempest, do you want to keep that up for us?
As been widely reported, Florida's governor vetoed $32 million in arts and culture funding from the state's fiscal 25 budget. Later, on June 27th, he cited Fringe Festivals as the reason for his veto.
And regardless of what one thinks of the reasoning for the veto, it is undeniable that the veto will cause negative impacts throughout Florida in terms of our cultural landscape, our state tax revenues, as well as has been evidenced in news coverage throughout the world, a downgrade in the world's opinion of Florida.
Tampa and Orlando Fringes have therefore written the following open letter to the governor.
Dear Governor DeSantis, like you, we, the Orlando and Tampa Fringe Festivals, care greatly about the citizens of Florida. Given that common ground, we hope that you read this letter with an open mind and fully consider the proposal below. We assume you did not veto the funding of science centers, aquariums, operas, zoos, children's programs, and other arts and culture programming lightly, and that much of what has transpired since June 27th press conference is a misunderstanding. One of the goals of this letter, then, is to clear up some of those misunderstandings.
And first, it is important to note that Fringe Festivals are performing arts festivals. We are not sexual festivals. The genres of performance range widely from storytelling to theater to improvisation to circus to music to dance, comedy, everything in between. We diligently watch for age appropriateness and ensure that a show with adult content is age-rated accordingly. So, through content indicators such as age, we empower our guests to make informed decisions and self-curate their experiences. No one is ever forced or coerced to see a show against their will.
Equally important is the distinction between uncensored and unlawful. Our festivals are uncensored, not unlawful. While a fraction of the work at our festivals could be adult only, we and artists operate within the laws, including decency regulations and requirements. We could say, because Fringe artists are selected through a lottery type drawing, thus it is literally the luck of the draw as to whether adult content is part of these festivals. We as festival producers do not put our thumb on the selection scale, though we proudly provide a platform for any and all artists to share their work.
Second, it is important that Florida taxpayers understand that their tax dollars do not pay fringe artists. Artists earn their income directly through ticket sales. In fact, 100% of an artist's advertised ticket price is paid to that artist. Instead, taxpayer dollars help with office expenses, ADA accommodations, and staff salaries, i.e. paying Floridians.
And more to that point, Florida arts and culture sector generates around $176 million in state tax revenue, a 550% return on a $26 million investment. It could be said then that the vetoed $32 million is but a small reinvestment into the organizations that help generate significant earned income for the state.
Defunding Florida's entire arts and culture sector because of Fringe Festivals, which accounts for just 0.002% of the vetoed $32 million, is akin to canceling Florida's entire sports industry based on an objection with one player on one team.
Finally, it is important to acknowledge that the many worthy organizations that have been negatively impacted by the veto are critical parts of the social, educational, and financial landscape of their respective communities. Their loss or diminishment will have serious ripple effects. As programs get reduced or cut, so too may salaries, which impact grocers, restaurants, auto shops, tithing, and other charitable giving.
So with all of this in mind, we implore you, sir, to consider the following proposal. Governor DeSantis, we the undersigned Fringe Festivals, which remain committed to providing inclusive spaces for artists and audiences, agree on a non-precedent-setting basis to forego the 2025 state grants that were approved for us in order to facilitate the restoration of the remaining legislature-approved arts and culture funding, provided you champion a successful reversal or overturn of the veto.
In addition, we will welcome and host you your family, and some of your aides when you attend our festivals in 2025. And we ask that you reciprocate by welcoming and hosting us in October or November 2024, so that we can build bridges of understanding and deepen your familiarity with the benefits of arts and culture investments, thus empowering you to be an impassioned advocate.
In the fiscal year of many arts and culture organizations began on July 1st, time is of the essence. We look forward to working with you for the betterment of all Florida citizens.
The open letter has been published online, and I believe it's going to be in some print editions in the media. There are copies available here if you'd like one to take with you. But at the moment, as I mentioned, there are a couple of other people we want to have come up and speak, and we'll go ahead and introduce them now. If you don't mind, we'll clear the stage for them. There will be 3 more speakers. The first will be artist, producer, and arts advocate Colleen Smith, followed by arts multi-hyphenate LaVon Gracie Davis, and then Executive Director of United Arts of Central Florida, Jennifer Adams. Colleen, here.
Art brings us together, whether it's visiting a performing arts center in the downtown of your city, an evening concert with friends in a park, or a visit to a children's museum with the family. Art creates moments that connect us to each other. Fringe believes in this power of art to cultivate meaningful community. And today I want to say thank you to Fringe's board, staff, and leadership for their willingness to make a selfless sacrifice for the sake of our communities across the state. Of course, Fringe's community-mindedness is nothing new. The very heartbeat of Fringe is platforming artists to create meaningful moments for us. Today's announcement is one small example of what the organization has done year-round for decades, worked tirelessly and selflessly to help others thrive. When I'm at Fringe, I see community coming together. The first show I produced at Fringe, I actually produced with a bunch of friends I met at church. We created a show called Connected, interestingly enough. It was all about the value and importance of community, and it won the Fringe of the Fringe Award that year. After each of the 7 performances, I had conversations with so many people, conversations about dealing with family illness, navigating feelings of loneliness, overcoming obstacles in life. It was a show that explored the power of coming together, of shedding the things that keep us apart and pursuing the beauty of relationship. And it did just that. That year at Fringe, were there a lot of performers who weren't like me, who thought differently than I did, who lived and acted differently than me? Yes. And I am so thankful for that. We produced that show in 2012, which was the same year I started what would later become the Creative City Project, an organization built on the belief that artists have the power to transform communities for the better. Since then, Creative City Project has been privileged to platform thousands of artists and create meaningful shared experiences for more than 1 million people. Fringe is part of that story. It gave me an opportunity as a younger artist, and today I have the honor and privilege of providing a similar platform for other artists. We don't support art because we agree with it. We support art because artistic moments and spaces are some of the few spaces and moments where we can still come together and explore ideas and perspectives civilly. Art gives us context. It helps us understand the world and connect us to other people. We too often let divisive voices separate us. And art brings us back together. It's what truly makes us a community. All of us have had powerful, moving artistic experiences. You, me, the Florida state legislators who approved $32 million in state arts funding, and Governor DeSantis. All of us, beyond political affiliation or ideology, have shed a tear or let out an uncontrollable belly laugh as the result of experiencing art. We've all had those moments of connection through art, holding the hand of someone we love while at a concert, being inspired by the heroes of our past at a history museum, most of whom were misfits on the fringes of society. Or, like I recently experienced with my niece Kendall, being brought to tears by seeing the incredibly talented kids in our lives crushing on stage. Thank you, Fringe, for your work and for yet another community-minded act. Let it be an inspiration to all of us to come together to financially support the incredibly powerful role that art plays in building our communities.
Good morning. My Freedom to Fringe story happened in 1996 when I performed at the American High School Theater Festival in Edinburgh, Fringe Festival. My name is LaVon Gracie Davis. I am an arts advocate, a programmer, a former arts venue executive, a past grant review panelist, and a past Florida Division of Arts and Culture grantee. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in theater with a concentration in acting from Howard University. My job for the last decade was a senior director of community arts programming at a performing arts venue. During that time, I poured my all into the Central Florida arts community. I know firsthand the transformative power of the arts. I have worked with over 300 local arts groups, nonprofits, and organizations across Central Florida. I have chaired and served for almost a decade for the Florida Council on Arts and Culture, which is the 15-member advisory council appointed to advise the Secretary of State regarding cultural grant funding and on matters pertaining to arts and culture in Florida. So in sum, I am not new to this, I am true to this. I understand the beauty of the arts and its place in humanity. Art is the great equalizer, the vehicle that drives us a little closer, the conduit to which we see our similarities. The arts meld together the spoken and the unspoken. So today I stand before you with a fire in my heart and an unyielding resolve, not as a state legislator, but as a person who is a part of a community that is under attack. Friends, we are living in perilous times where a culture war is the flavor of the day and arts has become politicized and partisan. I have seen firsthand the dedication, passion, and resilience of our artists. They are the soul of our communities, pouring their hearts into their craft, oftentimes spending their own personal money to bring beauty and meaning into our lives. I have watched their shows. I have witnessed them apply for grants, gathering unending amounts of documentation, sometimes having to be that part. Sometimes having to be the grant writer, the producer, the director, the costumer, and the usher all at the same time. I have been on dozens of state review grant panels. I have read hundreds of applications. I have written pages and pages of reviews. I have spent hours ranking and assessing grants during my tenure on the council. So my question is, why disenfranchise my work and the work of my colleagues who served last year on the council? Why nullify the sweat equity of the panelists who took the time to rank and review grant applications? And why even minimize the decision of the legislature, who at least approved the budget with the arts being funded at 40%? And anecdotally, while that was embarrassingly low, even the legislature, who often disagrees, agreed that in Florida, the arts needs funding to thrive. In Florida, the arts and culture industry employs over 230 Floridians, generates up to $32 billion in economic activity, and attracts at least 34 million tourists annually. Yet despite this undeniable impact, the arts was only budgeted a meager 1/20th of 1% of the total state budget of $117 billion. Unfortunately, this allocation of arts funding that was already grossly underfunded was cut in its entirety from the state budget via veto. This decision disenfranchises over 600 artists and organizations, robbing them of financial support they need to continue their vital work. Cutting arts funding is not just a financial decision. It is a cultural and economic misstep. It is an attack on the community that drives the economic engine that is Florida. Let me remind the powers that be, arts is not a luxury. They are an essential part of our society. They educate our children, heal our communities, and drive our economy. By stripping away this support, we are harming the artists who bring beauty and meaning into our lives, and we're stifling future cultural advancements. Let us not turn our back on the artists and organizations that work tirelessly to bring us together and make Florida vibrant and a dynamic place to live. But despite the burden that the recent veto has put on our community, I want to encourage Orlando Fringe and Tampa Fringe and all that are in the industry or allies to the industry. We still have a mission and a purpose. We must push past this dark moment and do what we are called to do. We must laugh. We must continue to laugh, sing, dance, play, act, and write, because we are medicine for this community and they need us to survive. Happy World Fringe.
Are truly for all of us, and it is now time for all of us to champion this plea to our governor, this plea to say that the arts matter to all of us, everything that you've said, everything that you've shared, and now we call to our governor because the arts are good for all of us, and it's time for us to champion this cause. For so many reasons, we need to advocate about our individual stories. We've all heard how the arts have impacted our lives, our businesses, our families, our schools, our local economy, and our neighborhoods, all the way down to the neighborhoods. And so we want to ask our governor to please recognize this unselfish move by our Fringe Performing Arts Festivals in our state to help the organizations that are truly advancing the lives and economy of our state. Just in Central Florida, there are 89 organizations that have asked our state for $10,000 up to $150,000. What can you do as business leaders? What can our communities do to help these organizations now? The call to action to you is to look at your business finance, look at your company's finances, and think about what you could do to help make up this gap, but also to think long-term about how the arts have affected your company and your employees' lives. Look at your foundation dollars and think of the profits that you are making and how you can return that investment into your local community, into jobs, into the creativity and innovation that makes our state great. So please look inside our own community and think about how we can help make this gap together. All of us can do it, but we have to stop and say, what are we going to do to champion the arts today and in the future? We have heard over and over the personal testimonies that the arts build bridges. And we hope that we can build bridges to our governor through this unselfish gesture by the Fringe Performing Arts organizations. Please, Governor DeSantis, reinstate the funding for the arts in this beloved state that you call home and that we as creatives call home together. I'm Jennifer Evans, President and CEO of United Arts of Central Florida, and we invest every day in arts, science, and history to enrich our communities and to help the arts thrive. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. To our friends in the media, thank you for sticking around and covering the entire thing. We very much appreciate that. We will make ourselves available to you if you have questions afterwards. But to everybody here, everybody at home, thank you for joining us and thank you for celebrating with us.
And happy World Fringe Day.